Hi, this is Tony Gilbert from the International Seakeeper Society, and I'm here with Fabrizio from the UN Coral Feature Fund.
Hello. How are you, Tony?
Good, good. I guess maybe if you could start by just telling us, what we're out here doing.
So the premise of the project, which is part of my dissertation, is that in a couple of years, part of Everglades is going to be dredged, and estimates are upwards of 1 to 4 million corals will be displaced due to that dredging project. And they have been very cooperative in wanting to do this the right way, and so they've been trying to get us involved and trying to create different mitigation plans or where those corals might be relocated to, or for what they could be used for. And so part of my project is trying to find kind of the ideal pipeline for these corals. So the reason why we're here today is just, we're going to be able to collect some of the corals that are in close vicinity and might be affected by the sediment plumes that result from the dredging of Port Everglades. And what we're trying to do with them is trying to see where they might do best. So whether there's interest in putting them on artificial reef structures. We're also trying to see if they're better outplanted just kind of like here, just in nearshore reefs. Or whether it's best to put them through different nursery stages, which is typical, but kind of on this large of a scale, not really heard of before. So we're trying to see if perhaps putting them through an ex-situ nursery or an in-situ nursery would create better outcomes for these corals once they get outplanted. So the idea is that my project will compare all those, we're comparing multiple species and trying to understand what might be the best restoration pipeline or mitigation pipeline for these corals once they do come out of the
Awesome. Great. And so clearly, these corals and these reefs, they create habitat and a food source and a nursery for all the fish and the marine life that you can find here. So what would happen if after this dredging there was no more reef and you couldn't do the work that you're doing now?
I think that there would be a lot of negative side effects. If you think about the extent of the reef and like we were mentioning, some of the system, the ecosystem services that they provide, it's massive, right? And I think yesterday was kind of like an exemplary part of that when we saw that there were probably upwards of 40 people just casting lines right off the port. So if you multiply that by 20 operators or what have you, like you're gonna see a lot of kind of consequential impacts if there were no reefs beyond the ecological, right? Impacting
ecological, environmental, but also economic.
Yeah. And I think that's part of like the part that resonates with a lot of people is the economic. It's easy to kind of like put things away or like to not really know when it's just solely like the biology or the ecology. But when people's jobs and livelihoods start to be affected by it, that's when I think people tend to pay attention the most. And so I think it's very important to kind of understand that the importance of our reefs extends beyond, like well beyond just ecological and biological.